Carolingian Empire Part 2. Last time we discussed the creation of the Carolingian Empire, how it started with the church-approved coup of the Merovingian dynasty. This time I will attempt to tell of Charlemagne's rule and the high points of the Carolingian dynasty of the Frankish Empire, specifically how the empire legitimizes its power. So who is Charlemagne? Charles the Great is Pepin the Short's son. He became king of the Franks in 768. Initially he ruled with his brother Carloman, but when Carloman died in 771 he became sole ruler. He is perhaps the best-known figure from the early Middle Ages, even getting the name the Father of Europe. He is the first person to be able to unite most of Western Europe since the fall of the Roman Empire. There are two main ideas to Carolingian power. The first is strength. Let's talk about the military system and how it compares to that of what was before. The Roman Empire was based on a fiscal system. The empire taxed wealth and agricultural produce, and the taxes are spent by the state on the military system. The army is paid in salary according to their rank. Those who survive will get a retirement when they're done. It's similar to the system of today. The Carolingians don't work that way. They're the typical war band idea of the early Middle Ages on steroids. Aristocrats fight for Charlemagne. Peasants don't become warriors because they can't afford it. In this time, one had to have their weapons, shield, armor, and war horses with them to become a warrior. These things are expensive. The warriors are not knights in shining armor of the later Middle Ages. They're a bunch of guys with hand-me-down weapons. Charlemagne doesn't care about peasants because they can't buy the stuff for themselves. This makes for a much smaller army than the Roman army, but they are more loyal than the Roman army. If we recall, one thing that led to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire was that the armies became loyal to their generals when the state could no longer support them. That was the beginning of what we see here. Loyal soldiers grouped around a strong leader who can take out opponents and distribute loot. That's why they show up. Charlemagne's army is a small, fast-moving mounted force that attacks with great viciousness and can instill fear in their enemies. So what does this small army do? Charlemagne takes his army all over and takes on small kingdoms throughout Western Europe. He takes on everybody he thinks he will get loot from. For example, one popular punching bag is the Saxons. They are weaker than the Carolingians and a good source of loot. Charlemagne has his way with them. The Carolingian chronicles will have you believe that Charlemagne takes out the Saxons because they aren't Christians. And maybe that is partly the case, but guess how many times he picks fights with the Emirate of Cordoba in Spain? Not many times. They're not Christians either, but Charlemagne has no intention of taking them on because they are well trained and scary. They won't produce victory, so what's the point? The Carolingians won't get wealth that they can redistribute to their loyal soldiers, so there's no point. There's a problem here, but let's save that for next time. The second main idea of Carolingian power is their religious ideology. Religious legitimacy is needed to balance out the strength. The Carolingians come onto the scene as usurpers. Pepin the Short stole the Frankish kingdom from the weak Merovingians who had their own idea of legitimacy, blood and heredity. When the Carolingians take over, they need a reason as to why their takeover is okay. They hit on the idea that they are Christian kings. The royal Frankish annals are full of Charlemagne's piety. Other written works at the time echo this, such as Fagin of Trier, who goes so far as to say that Charlemagne corrected the Bible on his deathbed. Not just anybody is allowed to correct the Bible, but God loves Charlemagne, so it's all right. When Charlemagne attacks the Saxons and other non-Christians, the royal Frankish annals go on about how this is the glory of God shining down on him. When he has to fight internal enemies and fellow Christians, the annals don't want to talk about it. A good Christian king doesn't fight other Christians. When the annals do say something about it, they make sure to tell you how bad those Christians were being, and how they probably weren't even real Christians. One thing that people seem to know about the Carolingian Empire is their love of Roman nostalgia. This comes up in a big way during Charlemagne's reign. In 799 there's a scandal in Rome. The Romans, the people of the city that is, capture the Pope, Pope Leo, blind him and cut out his tongue. Who knows why? The Pope must have done something bad. Anyway, if you cut out the Pope's tongue, you render him useless. A great bit of his power resides in his ability to give speeches and prayers. The Pope somehow escapes prison. He's such a scamp. And in the year 800, Charlemagne comes to Rome to figure out what's going on. Pope Leo went to meet him. Charlemagne presides over the examination of the Pope's crime because they're best buddies. According to the royal Frankish annals, nobody wanted to come forward to testify against the Pope. Who would with Charlemagne giving one his angry eyes? When you have friends like Charlemagne, you don't stay charged with crimes for long. The Pope then purged himself of the charges, silently of course, because he doesn't have a tongue, and took his job back. On Christmas Day, the Pope decides to return the favor. The annals have a great description of that day. Pope Leo the Ninja sneaks up on Charlemagne while he was praying and places a crown on his head to make him Emperor of the Romans. Charles isn't so different from his dad, is he? Just like how Pepin the Short dreamed of becoming the king of the Franks and used the Pope to get there, Charlemagne dreams of being a Roman emperor and has the Pope crown him emperor. The annals make it look as though Charlemagne didn't have a clue what was going on, and he was just trying to do his Christmas prayer in peace when the stealthy and tongueless Pope jumped out and crowned him. It's pretty obvious that Charlemagne wanted this. But why did Charlemagne want to be emperor? It's all legitimacy. This is another way to cement his legitimacy as ruler. Not only does the Pope approve, he made him emperor. The Romans may be gone, but their influence is not. Everyone knows that the emperor is the strongest ruler to ever exist. It doesn't hurt to share their title. The Carolingian Empire looks like it's going to last forever. Unfortunately for Charlie, his successors are much weaker than him, and it's partially his fault.